I want the population of Zimbabwe to be confident that the Zimbabwe as ZANU-PF as a mass party will not compromise on the integrity of the vote as the only way we express leadership in this country. That's what I want to tell you. Any other system which tries to subvert the vote by material means, inducement, or by money, it won't work in ZANU-PF because it backs against the trend of sacrifice.
I am your president here in Zimbabwe, but all I am today is because of Zambia. I grew up in Zambia, primary, secondary, university in Zambia. But Zambia's contribution is that I am now president of Zimbabwe. So it must go.
Uncontested, our parents fought for one man, one vote. So there's nothing that a man who came from Zambia can do to change it. Okay, I've always been saying that Mnangagwa is honesty. You know, that statement of saying I'm your president because of Zambia, meaning he's owing allegiance to Zambia. Wow. And the history of Mnangagwa is completely distorted. And for those that have been listening to some of the clips that came out from his sister, you can see there's a lot of lies that actually coming out of that story. But anyway, one day we'll dig in deeper to Mnangagwa's past and see what is it that we can pull out. Because honestly, there is no way a man who genuinely loves Zimbabwe would allow outsiders to destroy such a beautiful country. And he would also even take his own brother to prison who is innocent. He can even promote abductions, torture, and killings. Any person who genuinely loves Zimbabwe will understand that Zimbabwe is a country, it's its people. So when its people hurting, then there's absolutely nothing. Do you understand? So this is quite sad. Let's look at what Matebuka said, because he's sending a warning as well. He said, here I am once again to remind Zimbos that Mnangagwa and Chiwenga's showdown could be one of the most dramatic events we will never encounter in our own lifetimes. Even more dramatic than Robert Mugabe's riveting downfall. The shrinking clock towards 2028, the choreography in parliament who accelerate events, the long-awaited moment of reckoning is near upon us. One of them has to literally bite the dust. That is for real. I mean, it's very clear. You can see what the fathers are saying. And I'm referring to the military generals, retired military. A soldier is always a soldier. They understand what our parents or forefathers went through during the liberation struggle. They are not going to give out the country. Never. That will not happen. So this whole kingdom that Mnangagwa is pursuing with Anakta and so forth, it will not see the light of day. I can guarantee you on that one. Let's look at Takabatana Daily. He's been really sharing quite a lot of information also on X. Let me read what he said again in regards to the military. He said, what says the late Robert Major General Chingono? Apart is that in months leading up to his death, he had joined a significant group of former commanders opposing proposed constitutional changes. For these veterans, the issue is foundational, as altering presidential term limits risks dismantling the constitutional order that defended in 2017. That stance placed them in direct tension with the current push by Mnangagwa to extend his stay in power by whatever means, including fast-tracking the amendments of the constitution, using violence against opponents, and illegally bypassing the referendum process. I repeat, there is no Zimbabwean born in Zimbabwe, loves Zimbabweans, who would unleash violence on his brothers, except someone who has one agenda. One agenda is to take that country to be his. And that's exactly where Mnangagwa is. He's just playing even these ones that are surrounding him, that think they are loved, they will have extra 2 years. No, it is just a joke. I'm also glad that some of the MPs from ZANU-PF are clear that they do not want Emmerson Mnangagwa to actually extend his term. The people are hating, and there's absolutely nothing that will be done by Mnangagwa to undermine our pain. Nothing. 2030 will not see the light of day. Now take a listen.
Ndanengo asterek ndichitaura nyaya yemafiro emagenerals edu. We have reached a very concerning level where every month we have to go to the Hiroseka at least twice, if not 3 times, if not my double burials, if not machichi. We as a nation, we are troubled by the extent that the army generals are being buried, in other words, are being assassinated. Zvambofamba sei kuti chero mazuva Mugabe chaiwo mageneral anga asingafisa izvozvo. What is going on? What's going on? In my entire life, handisati ndambonzwa munhu anonzi aita heart failure ane 60 years. I don't know if it's possible. But as far as I know, heart failure inoitwa nevanhu vakura vakuma 80s, 70s, end of 70s, late 70s, 80s, 90s. How can a man who is 60 years old say kuti aita heart failure? Unless the organs are shutting down because of a certain substance induced. And at this particular moment in time, they are suffering the consequences of being part of the general public. Uyu munhu uyu ari kuramba achiuraya vanhu, uyu ari kuramba achiuraya masoja must be dealt with. Vanhu ivava nechiclub chavo chese nana Jonathan Moyo. Jonathan Moyo forgets that he does not live in Zimbabwe, he lives in the diaspora. He entirely forgets that haana liberty yekutaura zvaanotaura pamusoro pemasoja emunyika medu. Let me remind Jonathan Moyo kuti haana liberty and haana protection yaainayo kwaanogara ikoko. Siyana nevakomana vedu vemauto. Kwavakuda kubata kunopisa. Ari kuuraya magenerals edu ndiani. And mageneral edu ari kufire one after the other every 2 weeks. There is only one reason and only one man. And that man will fall down. That man one day will fall down. And when he falls down, tell him that he's going to leave trouble for his family. That man will fall down. We want to protect them from this serious psychopathic behavior and activity. Iri kuitwa nemunhu one tinomuziva tese munhu yati. Mutauri nezita tinomuziva tese.
It is worrisome. It is disturbing that only the military generals are dying, and they are dying like flies. Imagine, right now, people are burning almost 2. Recently, they were at the Hiroseka. Guys, any leader, any normal leader should be worried at this stage and say, no, man, something must be wrong. What is going on with my generals? So when a person isn't interested about you, but is interested about himself and his ambitions, that's exactly how they act. It is very sad. And we Zimbabweans, we need to hold each other's hands and do everything in our power to put a stop to the current wickedness that is definitely destroying our country day in, day out. We'll wake up with no Zimbabwe if we are not very careful. Anyway, let me look at what Neva Masorase wrote. He said, Mliswa is Mnangagwa's assassination scout whose job is to identify, provoke elimination targets. The military lot is too slow and think these are jokes. Muchena and many in his cabal will be going to Hiroseka soon. No diplomacy when dealing with Emerson. Strike or be deleted. Zimbabweans are very concerned, definitely concerned about the death of the military generals. All right, like I always say, in my view, Emerson Mnangagwa is playing the politics of the old, is when you conquer the land and take it to yourself and make it your kingdom. So if we are not very smart, we're all going to be worshipping a statue. And that statue again, in the name of Mnangagwa, a woman who stood for what was right. Mnangagwa wants to own that. Not only the Heped school of ideology, I can tell you with my head up high, that is just a ritual, a school of initiation to a cult. It has nothing to do with Herbert Chitepo, because who killed Herbert Chitepo? So many questions are being raised by Zimbabweans as well. And then the issue of Munomutapa. How can you be from Zambia, coming to Zimbabwe, and the track record of yours, of the history is so distorted, and then you wake up and you're running with this Zvigananda thing. You literally dragging the president of the country, as per what Professor Mtambara wrote in his book, that he dragged Mugabe into the bush, into a very dark bush, where there was this old woman living there, and a sangoma, meaning Mnangagwa, and he said that this is my aunt, she has the spirit of Nehanda. Are you guys paying attention? All of a sudden now there's a statue in Harare of Mnangagwa, which I don't think there's anything wrong, but this statue is guarded. So what is it there for? What is it there for if you can guard it? I thought maybe people should be able to pass through taking pictures, celebrate a great woman. But no, this is to him, Mnangagwa and his family. So Mnangagwa and his family, now all of a sudden, they're also claiming that they are Munumutapa. Something is wrong, and we keep on buying into the psychotic, events that are currently going on in our country. We need to put a stop to it. But even the same Jonathan Moyo, who is at the forefront of pushing the constitutional amendment bill number 3, he knows that Mnangagwa is the root cause of the misery of the people of Zimbabwe. Take a listen.
Is the problem perhaps how ZANU-PF in general has conducted itself, using state resources earmarked for all Zimbabweans to sustain the party itself abusing state resources in general, and that is why they fight?
I think that there are serious questions such as the one you are raising that need to be asked.
And it was under President Mugabe's watch.
Well, it was under Emerson Mnangagwa. Let us not play this simple game of saying it was under Mugabe and now we have a different government, different from Mugabe's government, when in fact the instigators and enforcers and the main players over a 37-year period are these, especially Emerson Mnangagwa. Emerson Mnangagwa cannot convince the world that he is different from President Mugabe. It is going to be the worst act of treachery, the worst that the region has ever seen, the liberation movement has ever seen.
But he's currently changing policies.
No, he's not. No, he has not changed any policies. He has slogans and anecdotes that are cynical, that are designed to placate the Western world, to make him appear that he's very different.
Yeah. Now the question is, who is Jonathan Moyo? What does he stand for? You see, these are the people that are causing more chaos in our country. Unprincipled individuals. Where money goes is where their mind goes. They're dangerous people. I think I've told you that in early 2025, that was before Comrade Geza came out, there were some guys who came from the side of Zvigananda or Mnangagwa, whatever the case is, and then they asked me a question. You either want money, car, or farm, then you can actually help us to continue pushing on Mnangagwa that doesn't need a referendum. And I told them, and I said, to hell with your money, your cars, and your farms, because the land, we already have the land. Who doesn't have a land in Zimbabwe? Hello? You can only play fools, but you came to the wrong place. Mnangagwa must go through the referendum if he believes that Zimbabweans want him to stand on. So as much as I need money, I was like, no, thanks. Bless you. Have a good day. Block. Delete. Hello. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe to Substrust channel as well for Professor Ibo Mandaza. It's a platform that you do not want to miss, because they discuss quite the most important issues right there. Anyway, so before I read the warning that has been fired at Mliswa Zvigananda, I just wanted to read the introduction of the Newsworks that they wrote today. So the Newsworks wrote an article, again, is zeroing into the succession battle. But I think it's important for Zimbabwe to know that the current battle is actually between Mnangagwa and Zimbabweans. It is Zimbabwe that is being stolen by criminals. All right. So I just want to read that introduction. So in the high-stakes theater of Zimbabwean politics, silence is rarely empty. It is usually heavy with the scent of gunpowder and historical memory. For months, a quiet but perceptible tremor has been radiating from the senior ranks of the Liberation War veterans and retired military commanders. Their sudden re-entry into the open political debate regarding the 23rd agenda is not a coincidence of civic engagement. It is a calculated signal. So a signal is being sent to the current criminals that think they have monopoly to our country. All right, so we need to look at the letter very quickly. I said formal response by Air Marshal retired Henry Muchena on behalf of retired generals and senior civil servants who are ex-combatants, and response statements by Themba Mliswa. Your recent utterances and video attacking retired senior army generals and civil servants in the aftermath of our correspondence on Amendment Bill number 3 to the Clerk of Parliament not only irresponsible, but they are dangerous. We seldom respond to most noise, but we are now compelled to respond not in anger, but because you chose to trivialize, make inflammatory and disparaging remarks on a fundamental issue that we raised. One of the two key reasons we left our villages to fight the war of liberation struggle, the issue of universal adult suffrage, one man, one vote. Let it be made unequivocally clear from the onset that we will not tolerate partisan narratives and unfounded attacks under the guise of political commentary or grandstanding for cheap political mileage or pieces of silver. The men, women, and institutions you so casually disparage are pillars of national stability, and an attempt to undermine their credibility for personal or political mileage will be met with the seriousness it deserves. It should be stated, as we do now, our letter to Parliament was part of a formal, constitutionally prescribed process relating to Constitutional Amendment number 3. That process is conducted through Parliament and through the Clerk of Parliament. At no point does the process require us to clandestinely approach the President of Zimbabwe. The suggestion is not only constitutionally illiterate, it is disrespectful. We find it deeply disrespectful that you say we spoke because we are bitter, because we do not have jobs. You are getting ahead of yourselves. We served and continue to serve this country and the party ZANU-PF with distinction on battles in offices of state, in the barracks and in the corridors of governance. To reduce our principled engagement to bitterness and born of unemployment is beneath contempt. The same spirit that we fought a war for nothing in return is the same spirit that lives in us. This should be a teachable moment for you. You said we are not clean. We demand that you explain precisely what you mean by that. We are listening. So is the nation. The forum to which we submitted our letter was a correct and proper one. It was a direct response to a public call by the Clerk of Parliament. We ask you plainly, are you accusing us of leaking that communication? We signed that letter, delivered it, and received a return copy from Parliament. Our submission was thus lawful, transparent, and procedurally sound. We demand to know who gave you the mandate to respond to us in the manner you're doing. What local stand do you have? Are you the Parliament spokesperson? Are you the government spokesperson? Are you the party spokesperson? To the best of our knowledge, you are not a member of Parliament or ZANU-PF member. In good standing, you are an opposition activist. Where do you get off addressing retired generals and senior civil servants who gave their lives for the freedom you abuse now? You seek to dissuade us from political involvement. We were the commiserate. We mobilized the citizenry. We recruited members into the very political party on whose behalf you now presume to speak. We learn from your statement that you are advancing interests of certain individuals. The only interests that must stand supreme are the interests of the Zimbabwean people and not the interests of individuals or certain Zviganandas. It is the people's interests and the people's interests only. You threatened us with charges of treason for making a formal letter submission in terms of constitution following a very public call by the Clerk of Parliament. We do not take that lightly, and we advise you not to repeat it ever. Take exception to your tone and to your threats. We will not make that lying down. When you shake the baobab, be certain you can withstand what falls from it. We wore the uniform with pride, served the flag with honor. Once a soldier, always a soldier, loyal to the flag, faithful to the uniform, and indebted to the people for life. Let this statement also serve as a stern warning to all those who belittle and mock the national issues that we seek to address. If you have nothing better to say, please maintain your silence. Zimbabwe's peace and security are not platforms for political grandstanding. Stand guided. Air Marshal Henry Muchena. Respect, sir. Respect. I have noticed something very interesting here. I also realized that the general mentioned that as well. There's something very sad that anytime Zimbabweans are trying to actually engage them on the issue of the Constitutional Amendment Bill number 3, they get attacked. Then I have got a question. So why then are you talking to us? Why can't you just do your stuff without have to approach Zimbabweans? Because approaching Zimbabweans and then when they respond, now it is problematic. For me, I don't understand. That will show you that it has nothing to do with Zimbabwe. It is everything to do with personal ambitions. Turning Zimbabwe into a kingdom. For Mnangagwa, these children, to eat and drink while everyone starve. We work for them. That's why this Mutapa investment fund is being done, I can tell you, for the Mutapa kingdom, so that they can have money for generations to eat and drink, like what's going on in Eswatini, which actually I heard some people said very soon is going to be stopped because people have realized that they're being used under the guise of culture and tradition. It is sad. Anyway, let's look at the comment from Advocate Tamani Pof. He said, General Muchena's response to Mliswa is as illuminating as it is revealing my takeaways. A, the general's position is that Mliswa is not speaking in his own mind, but acting as a paid mouthpiece. They want him to name his handler. This is a direct challenge to whoever controls him. B, their central message is this is their thing. In truth, it has been theirs for years. When they operated as a united force against opposition, the question now is whether it will remain theirs amid their internal rifts. It's interesting. The C one is what's happening to the generals now, stripping of arms and direct control of state power, is essentially the experience the opposition has faced for years. I have many questions swirling in my head, but I'll keep them there for now. It's not popcorn time. We can do with boiled eggs. All right. Let me read this tweet that was sent out by Lynn in 2020. It's a very important tweet. She said, I see the people celebrating the death of army generals. I don't like them either. But if the faction of Chiwenga is wiped out, we are left with Lacoste of ED, Mnangagwa. Matema, then she said something that I cannot repeat, but she was saying we are going to suffer. People will know that ED is the devil. ED is the devil will leave hell for them, which I completely agree with this view. I have noticed something that is actually very sad, is that Zimbabweans don't know their problem. They think their problem is the military. They think, no, your problem is criminality. Guys, do never forget that we lost a lot of people even within ZANU-PF. Name accidents. Don't forget border gates when he challenged Mnangagwa. What happened? When he said no, why is it you offer Zamutengwe? Zimbabweans, know your problems. Don't just play into this political madness. You are having a challenge with criminality that has been happening pre-independence. Who killed Vanai Hebert Chitepo? What happened? Who committed all the atrocities in Matavela land? What about the killings that has been going over there? Who's sending people to prison who never committed crime? I can never forget what one of the guy who is very much in ZANU-PF said to me, that there was a time Mnangagwa, as a vice president, refused to actually let go of state security ministry. He refused before Mugabe that he can't let go of a ministry. Imagine your subordinate refusing your orders. It says a lot about who Mnangagwa is, all right? Sometimes we take things lightly. You have never dealt with criminals, do you? Hardcore criminals, manipulators. They're deceptive. How many people that have been used by Mnangagwa and they are nowhere to be found today? He uses it, discard. He uses it, discard. You're going to wake up and realize that the military is not your problem. These are well-trained soldiers. But criminality is your main problem. Criminal syndicates that have been operating for decades, that have turned the whole country into a criminal state. Young people are being recruited as we speak by these very same gangs. So let's wake up and be smart. But I wanted to lean into point 3, where they also asked the military that you said we are not clean. We demand that you explain precisely what you mean by that. We are listening. So is the nation. So they are now demanding, tell us where we went wrong. If you do not understand how criminal syndicates work, you end up blaming everybody. But wisdom is zero into the criminals and drag them, look them in prison where they belong. Zimbabwe will be moving forward peacefully. Until we understand that our challenge is not politics. So don't confuse those that have got ambitions to control or to have positions with our problem. Criminality is our problem. All right. So for those that have been asking questions about ZANU-PF in general and what will happen, post Mnangagwa era, because the truth is Mnangagwa is going to go. People can scream all they want, but lines have been drawn. The sentence no longer hold. There's no amount of bullying and amount of violence that you unleash on Zimbabweans to get away with this. Absolutely not. I also heard someone was very close to his son and said that the son said, I'm the second in line and my father will do anything to fight. You will not go without a fight. I'm sure that is a fight that he was referring to. Anyway, time will tell, but let's listen to Waforoa.
Mugabe killed ZANU-PF, and Emerson has successfully buried the party we knew. So we're talking really of a situation in which one cannot expect Chiwenga, whoever takes over, to run the country with ZANU-PF. That's clear. What would be the possible scenario if Chiwenga were to take over?
Look, ZANU-PF has got pillars, and ZANU-PF has got an ideology. ZANU-PF has got that ideological background together with ZAPU, ZANLA, and ZIPRA. So these are foundational pillars that are existing in isolation to the practice that we have today. And what we thought would happen when Mnangagwa came in, everybody was talking of a reformed ZANU-PF, renewal and reform were the two words being thrown around. And this is the same thing that would happen if Chiwenga somehow found himself in charge. It is the question of looking at what he preaches within his speeches now, what the blood that was shed for, the rivers of blood, what people sacrificed for, how these youths left school and jobs and everything. What he's talking about is the foundational pillars of the vision, the aspirations of the liberation struggle legacy. So he knows these things. And the question is, we are in another generation. And the people that fought that war in their 70s and in their 80s and so on, he has to work with the word renewal. He has to work with the word reform. And I've talked to some of the people in his camp. This is the question of how are we going to get the party reformed or renewed into an entity that is sustainable for the betterment of the people. That is what he has to do. So what Mnangagwa did is he knew that he was going to need Jacob Mudenda. He knew he was going to need Patrick Chinamasa. He knew he was going to need Obed Mpofu. He knew all the people that helped him to get into there because he knew all this. He put up this structure where he got all these oligarchs, Kudata Gure, giving them serious, huge salaries at the party. So he says, I'm going to fool these people and come up with what looks like a younger generation in terms of like the executive and government. I'm going to have younger ones, but these people cannot retire because I will need them politically. So they were all packed at ZANU-PF headquarters, and for the wrong reasons. We now have Mudenda back in parliament without an election to spearhead this nonsense about the 2030, and then Chinamasa is there to back up and all these other people. So this is the temptation. This is what Chiwenga would have to know, that people that have served their term have to go, and he would have to renew, as Mnangagwa promised to do, and work genuinely, because when you then compromise the young that you are working with, like Mnangagwa did, by surrounding themselves with political power and with all these money bags, and then create a system that is all performance, that is all theater development, theater this, when the reality is just looting and looting, then you cannot go anywhere. So like any other leader, it's not about who is there that he's going to work with. It is about what principle is he going to adhere to, and people who come to help him. So ZANU-PF needs restructuring, needs a renewal, needs a reformation, and this is where Chiwenga or anybody else would start from, to say, okay, elections have got to be free and fair in this country. Accountability institutions have got to have their independence in this country. Are we going to have a proper, change? I was talking about ZAC a lot. Is that independence going to be granted up? Going people to stand aside and allow ZAC to do its work? The Auditor General, for example, when he right now the Auditor General is allowed for in some cases to tell us exactly what happened, egregious criminal activities, and now nobody does anything about it. It just comes out. This is what happened, and the Auditor General found this one. They cannot account for 2 billion out of 10 billion. They cannot account for this, and nothing happens. So the question is, will Chiwenga allow these institutions to do the beautiful laws that she has talked about, that we have some of the most powerfully written laws in the land, but they're just not implemented? This is the real challenge. So I have no problem with the people but it is up to him who he's going to work with.
Chris Mutsvangwa was very clear. ZANU-PF is an institution. It is bigger than Mnangagwa himself. That's all I can say. What we need to focus on is the diabolical systems that are keeping our people at ransom in poverty and suffering should be dismantled and dismantled now. All right, I want to hear what you guys think in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I love you, bless you, and bless Zimbabwe. Bye for now.